Hi everyone, my name is Cindy Brandt. I am the blogger at cindywords.com and at Patheos on Fundamentalist Parenting. A little bit about my faith background. I grew up in a small conservative evangelical school for missionary children, and after I graduated high school, I went to a small liberal arts Christian college in Midwestern United States. So in high school, we would joke that we existed in a small Christian bubble. And then when we went to college, I would say I went from a small Christian bubble to a slightly larger Christian bubble. The bubble refers to, of course, a world that is separated from the outside world, sheltered from secular influences where we consumed Christian products and music and books and movies, and generally lived inside of a Christian subculture. I remember questioning whether this was the most faithful way to live because we were also taught that we were meant to evangelize and be salt and light in the world. And one of the adults at my school told me that it's good to learn about the world from a safe perspective, that it's good to be sheltered and have a firm foundation in Christian morals and values before you become exposed to the ways of the world. So that sounded good to me. It seemed responsible, and as a Christian parent, we do think about protecting our children and giving them some boundaries to safeguard them and eventually slowly lead them out into the world. However, there is an unfortunate side effect. When we act like the world is something to be protected from out there and spiritualize the subculture inside here, then we set up this binary and this defensive posture where outside is bad and inside is good. That sounds very simplistic, but that's the way children's brains work. Children are expert sorters. Even as toddlers, they know how to sort according to shapes and colors, and their still developing brain will categorize and try to fit the experiences that they have into these categories of good and bad, black and white. As they grow and as their brains begin to allow for complexity and nuanced thinking, they will be forced into a position of either abandoning their childhood faith altogether or continue to fit everything into these confined, narrow boxes of good and bad, godly and godless. And when that happens, it may threaten their childhood faith altogether, or they continue to fit their experiences into these categories and defend God so that God becomes a petty God that needs to be defended at all costs, or a very irrelevant God. I don't think the Christian bubble is a good model to raise children in. I think we can forge a Christian identity in children that isn't constantly drawing lines in the sand, but as children who learn to slowly and surely witness to the beauty of God in all of the world. This means that it's important to expose our children to everything that is good, beautiful, and true in the world. Sometimes these are inexplicitly Christian media, but other times it is often gritty children's lit that explore important human themes that spark a child's imagination. I guess the most famous example would be Harry Potter, which is known for being a book series that's banned within many Christian circles because it explores magic, and not just magic, but dark magic. But there's also so many good things about Harry Potter as it talks about discrimination, injustice, relationships, and ultimately how love triumphs over evil. All of which are human themes that are relevant to those who identify as Christians. Ultimately, I believe that God can be found anywhere. Whatever beauty is, there God is. There isn't any boundary that can contain the creator of all of the world. So why would we want to set our children up to view the world that way? Instead of building a fence to protect our children, we need to equip them to know how to find God in the world. We can give them what I call God glasses. In our daily conversations with our children at the dinner table, in car rides, or reading books together, we can ask them questions and see where they can see goodness and kindness and beauty. If you're reading a book with them, ask, what do you see as loving and kind in these characters in the book? When you go out with them into the world, show them the beauty that's out there, the flowers and the stars and the oceans and the sky, and ask them, can you feel that there is something transcendent? Do you feel like there is something greater than us that created all these beautiful things? Tell them stories, lots of stories. Tell them fairy tales, storybooks, and tell them stories from your everyday lives, from your own family. Tell them about grandma and grandpa and ancestors and relatives and the things that happened when they were little. Stories make really good God glasses because they help flex children's imagination and not limit God to a stale definition. When we build a fence or a bubble or any other kind of boundary, when children outgrow that, God becomes smaller. But when we equip them with God glasses, as they grow, they develop the growing sensibility to find God in complex and nuanced ways. In C.S. Lewis's Narnia Chronicles, there is a part of the story where Lucy, who is one of the 4 main characters, she had not seen Aslan the lion for a while. And when she does meet him, she says, "Aslan, you look bigger." And Aslan replies, "Every year you grow, Lucy, so do I." This is what we want parenting our children about God to be, that as they grow, their view of God expands. Intensive parenting ends when our children leave our home. Hopefully by then we've taught them how to do the dishes, do their laundry, file applications, and all these really practical life skills. But when it comes to spiritual education, we don't have to be anxious about making sure they know everything there is to know. Because the question when it comes to learning everything about God is not, have you learned everything? But are you ready to get started?